All right, how's it going, folks? Good morning, or good afternoon, as I might say, is 1:03 here. Currently, November 4th, 2025. It's Michael Schneider. Pleased to be joining you here. Second day of the week. We had a good day yesterday, but trade deadline ends today at 4, and as we get down to the wire, we are having lots of stuff going on. Literally, just before I started recording, we just had the Rashid Shaheed trade to the Seattle Seahawks. Still haven't looked into the details about that one, but we are getting right into it. The NFL week number 9, I believe. We're reviewing this past coming week with lots of great headlines going on, some upsets, some great games going on. We're going to cover it all, and we're going to cover things that have been going on today. Lots of groundbreaking moves. Obviously, we talked about Rashid Shaheed going to the Seahawks. 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Oh, wow. Okay, all right. We just got more news. The Jets are trading for former Texas, Georgia wide receiver A.D. Mitchell. Obviously, we know that the Jets just traded away their best defensive player in Sauce Gardner. He's going to be paired up with DeForest Buckner in Indianapolis ahead of their highly anticipated game in Dublin, Ireland. Ireland, in Germany, and this weekend against the Atlanta Falcons. Apologize for that. But let's get right into what happened week 9, starting off with Thursday Night Football before we get into all of the trade things that are happening. Might have some things that interrupt me halfway through, but we're going to talk about what these trades mean and what they are going to do for teams in the future. So first we're going to start off Thursday, October 30th. We had the Ravens-Dolphins. Obviously Lamar Jackson coming back off of his injury proneness. He completely sauces up the Dolphins, throws for 4 passing touchdowns, and destroys the Dolphins 28-6. Clearly what we were expecting there. Hopefully he can turn the tide for the Ravens in Baltimore. And next up, Sunday, let's get into it. So Bears-Bengals, obviously we know Bengals have been fighting all season despite being without Joe Burrow. Another Joe they got is Joe Flacco. He's been playing some, like I've said last week, he's playing really damn good ball. They came back down multi-score deficit on the Bears in Cincinnati. Despite that, Caleb Williams was able to mount a late walk-off win or walk-off score for the Bears. As you can see, if you've been on social media, you can see players like, I believe it was Jamar Chase, and then the running back for the Bengals. They were very, very wordy with how they would describe how the team's playing, especially with the defensive struggles. And obviously it's been showing despite that. I mean, even without Joe Burrow, I'd say the main issue right here is not even the quarterback position here. It's the defense. And we've seen that last year. We've seen that in previous years. And we're seeing it again this year. And this year it is more dire than ever. Kind of like the same scenario we have for the Dallas Cowboys, playing with one of the best offenses, I'd say, definitely in their division, definitely in the NFC and in the league. A great offense, putting up lots of points. Even though last night was a little bit of I'd say a halt in their offensive production, but we've seen it against teams like the Eagles, one of the top teams in the league, that they can perform offensively. It's just their defense really cannot stop anyone. They let up 27 points to Jacoby Brissett in the Jacoby Brissett-led Cardinals last night. Marvin Harrison tore up the Cowboys defense. Obviously, we saw the great slant route that he had on Deron Bland in the end zone. Made Deron Bland look silly. One of the best players, a lot of people are saying, on that Cowboys defense without Micah Parsons. But we won't talk too much about that. Despite, Micah Parsons being on a better team like the Packers, they lose to the Panthers on a walk-off field goal in Lambeau. They lose their first game at home. The Panthers are seeming like they might be able to make some comp for the NFC South. Obviously, they responded well after getting destroyed by the Bills last week in Charlotte. Bryce Young's playing some good ball, and unfortunately for Falcons fans such as myself, it is not good. We were projected to win. Not projected, I'd say. A lot of people were projecting the Buccaneers to still win, but a lot of people had hope that the Falcons can make a run. They're currently sitting at 3-5, and they are 0-2 in the NFC South, currently sitting at third in the NFC South. So, yeah, that just kind of explains how we've been going on. Obviously, when we talk about the trade deadline, like we're going to talk into, the Falcons aren't too much for that. They don't make much moves. Obviously, we don't have too much draft capital right now because of the fact that we traded away our first-round pick in the upcoming draft for James Pierce, that has been playing some good ball, along with the pair of Jalen Walker on our front seven. That pass rush has definitely been subtle, but I'd say that more of the injuries in our secondary are kind of plaguing us, and some of the injuries are kind of coming into our front seven as well. Obviously, you know, Divine Diablo, I believe Arnold Ebiketie is also banged up. Also, we have to address our offensive line depth. That would be, I mean, to get one good guy for our offensive line would be great. You know, some guy to protect Michael Penix's blind side, because that's been a huge point of emphasis for the Atlanta Falcons offense. We'll talk more about the Falcons game here in a second. Chargers-Titans. The Chargers struggle to the 1-7 Titans. Despite that, they escape Nashville with a win, 27-20. Justin Herbert playing a solid game, 19 for 29, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And barely any of that went to Keenan Allen. You know, obviously, Keenan Allen, I love Keenan Allen, having him on my fantasy team. Did not do much for me there. Neither did Vidal. Justin Herbert being the lead rusher for the Chargers there in Nashville, 9 carries, 57 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So he's really taken the whole phrase "putting the team on your back" to a whole different level here. Vikings, in J.J. McCarthy's return after being injured. Obviously, we talked about that in the Atlanta Falcons game a while ago on Monday Night Football. He comes back and plays a damn good ball, throwing for 2 touchdowns in his return against Jared Goff and the Lions, that are searching for kind of some consistency here. They lose that home game, their first home loss, and it's just kind of a slip-up for the Lions. I'd say they'll be able to figure it out by the end of the season, but that means that the Packers, despite losing, they still control their destiny in the NFC North. They do technically have the same record as the Lions, but they have the tie, so that kind of plays a role into that. And now we're going to talk about Patriots, Falcons. Patriots looked like they were going to take the game away come the end of the first half. I believe they were up, 14-21, 7-21. Drake May was playing some good ball, had a couple turnovers, kind of got the Falcons back into the game. And, of course, we've talked about this before. We talked about how annoying this was at the beginning of the season from the standpoint of a Falcons fan, how annoying not being able to, usually when we talk about the main issues of a team, we don't kind of look at the kicker, but Falcons lose 23-24 due to the fact that Parker Romo missed an extra point. Not a field goal, technically the same thing, but he missed an extra point. After what seemed like a crucial touchdown by the Atlanta Falcons, they lose by a point in Foxborough, and the Patriots extend their winning streak to 6th in a row. So the Patriots, they're playing damn good ball. The Falcons dropped to 3-5, and they go to Germany next weekend to play the even betterly fortified Indianapolis Colts, obviously, with their defense now having Sauce Gardner in the secondary, paired up with DeForest Buckner in the front seven, and that explosive offense in Indianapolis. So obviously not looking good for the Atlanta Falcons, and the Atlanta Falcons have a lot of issues to address, and it really comes down to the offense. We can talk about the offensive line and their depth, but realistically, I'd say that despite that, Michael Penix is making it manage seemingly well for the situation that he's in, also due to the fact that we have one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL. And we just got details about Rashid Shaheed, I believe his 4th and 6th round picks to the Saints for Rashid Shaheed. And Rashid obviously is going to the Seattle Seahawks. We'll talk more about these trades, though, as we go on, but obviously you look at that, and that's a huge win for the Seahawks. Basically losing no first, second, third round capital for that. Obviously the picks matter, but in terms of a player like Rashid Shaheed that has been explosive, definitely a down year this year due to the fact that, the Saints offense has not been able to get too much explosiveness, and their team overall is just kind of wobbly. That is not a good look from the front office in NOLA. Steelers, Colts, we talked about this. This is one of the huge matchups going on this week. And the Colts, after playing, seemingly mediocre competition, obviously they played the Broncos and they played another team as well. They lose to the Steelers here. They drop that game. Daniel Jones plays some solid ball, 340 yards on 31 completed passes out of 50. Does throw one touchdown. Does have multiple interceptions. I believe it was 3 interceptions. So that was kind of the difference there in Pittsburgh. Broncos, Texans, a defensive bash. Obviously, we know that these are 2 of the best defenses in the league. And it really showed down to this. Bo Nix was able to survive there. Only threw 173 yards. The run game was huge in that game as well for the Broncos. Obviously, we know the Texans have such a threatening secondary with people like Stingley. But Broncos extend their winning streak to 7-2. Yeah, I can't remember what streak they're on. But they proved to be one of the top forces in the AFC. I believe that they're first in the AFC West right now, in front of the Chargers and then the Chiefs. We won't talk about the Raiders, obviously the Raiders. So we're going to talk about next. They lose to the Jaguars, and obviously the main headline in the Jaguars game is Cam Little's record-setting 68-yard field goal. Huge for the guys there. Obviously, that was more earlier on in the game. We kind of got a third and fourth quarter. It was more fourth quarter clash. Went to overtime, and the Jaguars were able to survive on a failed 2-point conversion by the Raiders. And Pete Carroll really being questioned here for why he would go for that. Obviously, going for the win. It probably would have ended up in a tie, but despite that, the Raiders drop to 2-6 and 1-3 at home. I believe they go into bye week next week. And we're going to go to the Saints and Rams next, which is also going to be one of our main topics of the day. Obviously, with the Rashid Shaheed trade and the trade deadline ending today at 4 p.m. The Rams destroy the Saints 34-10. Matthew Stafford, despite being how old he is, 37, 35, playing amazing ball here. 24 for 32, 281 yards and 4 touchdowns. Kyren Williams also playing really good running ball for them. Puka Nacua coming back off that injury. He's 7 receptions, 95 yards with a touchdown. And the Rams just keep rolling. They move to 6-2, 3-1 at home. And then I think kind of the game of the week was the Bills-Chiefs. And the Bills really just had dominance through that entire game. Chiefs kind of caught up towards the end, or kind of caught up before halftime. Were able to kind of get within a score towards the end of the game through the fourth quarter, but the Bills were able to hold the Chiefs off. They go to 6-2. Obviously, we know that the Bills are pretty much a lock against the Chiefs in the regular season. Postseason, that's when it becomes more of a issue. Seahawks, Commanders, main storyline of this game, Sam Darnold, torched them, 21 for 24, great completion percentage, 330 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels, obviously we know the gruesome arm injury. It was dislocated, and don't know if it was broken either, but we saw, how disgusting that injury was. Watch at your own risk. I obviously can't show it here due to the fact that I can't really, show any clips on here, and I won't show it anyway. But if you want to look it up, viewer discretion is definitely advised. Commanders are kind of down in the dumps now, and without their starting quarterback, Marcus Mariota's taking over the helm for the rest of the season for the Commanders. And as a former victim of Marcus Mariota's playing and his quarterback reign, all I gotta say to Commanders fans is strap in. It's going to be a long, however many games, 7 games, 8 games left in the season. Cardinals, Cowboys last night, obviously we talked about it a little bit. Monday Night Football. The Cardinals end up beating the Cowboys 27-17. Obviously, Marvin Harrison's playing a really good game last night. 7 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. beating the hell out of the Cowboys defense, like we said. The great slant route on Deron Bland, that was a huge emphasis. Obviously, we saw a great, I believe it was a fade ball by JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, for the Seahawks against the Commanders. We saw that great route. That was a beautiful route. And, the Ohio State wide receivers really played some great ball this week. We didn't even talk about JSN recording 8 receptions for 129 yards. Didn't get any of Sam Darnold's 4 passing touchdowns, but JSN playing a great game. The Ohio State wide receivers are really showing that, they are wide receiver university, especially with the late breakout of Emeka Egbuka. Speaking of Emeka Egbuka, he comes back next week against... I can't remember. They were on bye this week along with the Eagles, the Jets, and the Browns. The Browns play the Jets in, I believe it's Cleveland next week. But let's talk about Week 10, and then we're going to get into what all this means with the trades that are coming in. Had to check just to make sure that there was no more trades coming in. Oh, wow. Okay, so we got a lot more coming in since I've talked about it. Oh, I think it was just 1 or 2 more. Speaking of the Browns, they're sending Joe Tryon Shoyinka and a 7th-round pick to the Chicago Bears for a 6th-round pick, along with, obviously the Shaheed pick the Shaheed trade and Jacoby Myers. But yeah, all right, let's get into the Week 10 preview. Raiders-Broncos, Thursday Night Football. Denver is favored by 8.5 points, rightfully so. They're playing great ball. But, their defense is really kind of keeping them afloat here in some of these games where, the offense might not be playing to the best of their abilities. And then we start off Sunday Night Football. Sunday morning football. We got the Falcons and the Colts. Colts are favored by 6.5 points. Falcons are coming off a heartbreaking loss off a missed PAT. Speaking of that, I believe the Falcons they dropped Parker Romo, and they're bringing in, who did they bring in? But we'll talk more about that. Zane Gonzalez from, I believe he's a free agent, former Washington Commander. He is coming in to fill in for the Atlanta Falcons. His extra point, he was 100% last year. Field goal percentage was 71.4, 38th in the NFL, and his longest was a 48-yard field goal. But, it just really continues to be a baffling thing for the Falcons this year. Obviously, you've made 3 kicking switches this year. We brought in Lenny Craig, a German ball player, beginning of the season to kind of compete with Young Hoku. Young Hoku obviously gets cut after week 1. We bring in Parker Romo, and he just does pretty much the exact same thing. And so now we have Zane Gonzalez. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays as kicker for the Falcons, if he can, do the bare minimum to help the Falcons win games or keep them in games. They play the Colts, who have just now gotten Rashid Shaheed. That is huge. And 2 first-round picks to the New York Jets. That's great. I'd say it's really just a win-win scenario for both teams. Obviously, Sauce Gardner's playing elite ball right now. The 2 first-team All-Pro, adding to that great Colts defense and that great Colts team overall, 7-2. They really are shooting for a Super Bowl this year. I think they can get it with him, being that locksmith cornerback in the backfield to help, with DeForest Buckner and that strong front 7 for the Colts. They play the Falcons. I'm probably not even going to wake up for that game. I'm just going to wake up whatever time I do, and if I do happen to see the game or the finish of the game, I'll watch it. But that's the Berlin game. Giants, Bears. Caleb Williams coming off that stellar walk-off touchdown against the Bengals last week. They're favored by 3.5 points. I like the Bears here. Bills, Dolphins. The Bills are favored by 9.5 points. Josh Allen coming off a impressive win against one of the uprising teams in the league, the Kansas City Chiefs, and a huge blowout win in Carolina, in Charlotte. The Ravens, Vikings. Lamar Jackson coming off his win in Miami, coming off the injury. J.J. McCarthy also coming off his win off the injury. That's actually going to be a very interesting clash. Baltimore's only favored by 4.5 points. Browns, Jets. This one's going to be a very interesting game, I'd say, for the most part. You got a 2-6 Browns team traveling to East Rutherford, to MetLife Stadium to play the 1-7 Jets, and the Jets are favored by 1.5 there. And that is going to be the shit bowl, as some may say. Obviously, two of the worst teams in the league, not including the Saints, who play the Panthers, which are probably going to lose to the Panthers. I mean, it'll probably be a close game. Panthers aren't too incredibly great of a team, and the Saints are really looking for another monumental win to kind of keep themselves mortally alive, I'd say. Patriots, Buccaneers, huge game in Tampa, Florida this weekend at 1 p.m. The Patriots coming off an impressive win. Buccaneers on a bye week. They come back to play the Patriots. Just beat the Atlanta Falcons in a thriller in Foxborough. Buccaneers are favored by 2.5 points. I like the Buccaneers here. Obviously, you can't really stop Rachaad White. You can't stop Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka. But that will be definitely, I'd say, more of a high-scoring game for both teams. It'll be a very good clash, a very good game. Potential for game of the week, even. We have, obviously, we talked about Saints, Panthers, Jaguars, Texans, AFC South clash in Houston. Trevor Lawrence and the guys, they come off a hard-fought win in Las Vegas. I don't know. I kind of like the Texans here. I don't know. They played a really good game against the Broncos, and I'd say they're kind of riding that momentum, hopefully, into this game against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's shown a little bit of shakiness in the past. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, this means a lot more because it is a divisional clash between both of these teams. Cardinals, Seahawks, Sam Darnold coming off, a seasonal game against the Commanders last week. I'd say they keep riding the momentum. Seahawks stay hot. They're favored by 6.5 points, rightfully so. Rams, 49ers. The 49ers, despite being down, Brock Purdy and practically 90% of their starting staff, Christian McCaffrey and team and the Pals, I'd say, they're playing. They're playing a lot better with what they have. So going in against the Rams is going to be, I'd say, more of a high-scoring game. Obviously, the 49ers don't have a defense as of now. They've lost, Fred Warner. They've lost that whole defense. Everyone's injured. Brock Purdy's out. But Mac Jones is still playing some exceptional ball for the 49ers. That game will be happening in Santa Clara. Lions, Commanders. Obviously, the Lions are pissed off. They're coming off a loss divisionally to the Vikings. I believe they're 1-2 or so in the division in the NFC North. They're looking for a win to kind of keep themselves afloat for now. Steelers, Chargers on Sunday Night Football, and the Steelers are coming off an impressive win against arguably one of the best teams that a lot of people are saying in the league. I don't know. They haven't really been playing too much high-level competition compared to some teams like maybe the Bills or Eagles or Packers. The Packers have played the Browns, Panthers. It's really relative. Obviously, despite that, the Colts are playing great ball. I'm not going to hate on them. But the Eagles, Packers, that caps off our week. That's probably actually game of the week, I'd say. Monday Night Football. And the Packers are favored by 2.5 points. They come off the heartbreaking loss in Lambeau to the Carolina Panthers. So they're looking for some revenge. I know the Eagles were on bye week after their sketchy win against the Vikings a couple weeks ago. So that kind of caps off the rest of our week. And we're going to talk about these trades. Jacoby Myers to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We didn't get the trade details on that, but we're going to look for that. But while we're looking for that in the meantime, obviously we talked about Rashid Shaheed. That's going to be great for the Seahawks. They already have JSN. They have, pairing him up with JSN is going to be huge, especially with the way Sam Darnold's playing right now. And the Seahawks, they're continuing to be hot, and that is a great pickup for them. I believe, yeah, 4th and 6th round picks for Myers. So the Raiders will be getting a couple of picks in the next draft, the 2026 4th round and 6th round pick for Myers. And we have Rashid Shaheed. That is Rashid Shaheed, like we were talking about. He goes to the Seahawks. Obviously, that's a huge blow for the Saints. They don't get too much capital off of that, or they don't get much draft, picks off that. And then we talk about Sauce Gardner, who I'd say is really, I'd say it's kind of an equal draft night here. Colts, they send 2 first-round picks to New York. New York sends Sauce Gardner, a 2-time All-Pro, easily one of the best cornerbacks in the league, if not the best, to the Indianapolis Colts to strengthen their defense. Obviously, we know their offense has been playing stellar, other than, the turnover battle that they kind of had in Pittsburgh last week that they lost. They get a huge defensive piece in their secondary, and really things are looking up for the Colts. So hopefully he gets the call. He's able to play. Not really. Hopefully he's able to play against the Falcons, but it's likely that he will play for Atlanta. Trade deadline ends at 4 today. We don't have any more trades as of now, but I will update the Instagram with the trade graphics just to let people know, kind of keep people informed. But despite that, another great episode today. NFL's heating up. Here's the deadline. So you kind of have to solidify your guys. You have to solidify your squad, and this is kind of where we see who can get these key players to, change their team around and hopefully switch the momentum from a losing scheme into a winning scheme, and to bring themselves in the playoffs. That's what I say the Colts are doing here. Responding to that high stakes loss against the Steelers with Sauce Gardner. They're going to kind of carry that winning mentality, motivation into the playoffs. Probably going to win the AFC South with how intense they've been playing, how great they've been playing. But despite that, lots of teams that aren't making plays, that aren't making moves. Atlanta Falcons, for instance, in this next 2.5 hours, don't expect the Atlanta Falcons to make any moves. We have a front office filled with a bunch of fucking idiots. And we, it's been, how long ago was the Bills game? I'm going to go on a little rant here. I got a few minutes to kind of talk. So, it's been a few weeks. Obviously, the offense, despite not having a lot of offensive line depth, we have been showing that we basically can't do shit with Zach Robinson in offense. It's the most predictable offensive scheme I've seen. It's literally like an exact mirror of Mike Bobo, as a lot of people will say, like I talked about yesterday. Georgia's offense is bland. Atlanta's offense is bland. It's like Mike Bobo, Zach Robinson are 2 of the same exact guys. They come from the same branch of shitty offensive coordinators. Jeff Ulbrich, however, was a great hire. Great to bring him to the squad. Jimmy Lake, I know last year, I believe Jimmy Lake was in Atlanta last year, was a horrible defensive coordinator. Obviously showed we had, even with a horrible pass rush, I say our defense in general was just kind of all out of sorts. Not even really much, we were winning these games in shootouts last year. Obviously we talk about the Buccaneers game. That was like a 30, 40-point game between the Buccaneers last year. And I believe even in both games that we won against Tampa Bay. And, yeah, so I'd say really it comes down to Robinson. I'd say we have to fire Zach Robinson before any fingers are pointed at Raheem Morris. Obviously, a lot of people are kind of saying that Raheem Morris is illiterate by the way that he kind of, when in these press conferences, he's kind of just saying the same things like, oh, we got beat by the better team today. It's really an occurring theme. But I'd say realistically, what do you want the dude to say? Do you want him to kind of just be like, it's really interesting. But I'd say we have to kind of assess the real issue here, and that's our offensive play calling, and that starts with firing Zach Robinson. I mean, get him the fuck out of Atlanta, respectfully. I don't want to see his face there ever again. Realistically, a lot of people were saying we should have left Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson in Boston, and realistically, we should have. Not, you know, I still kind of have somewhat hope in Raheem Morris to say he still kind of has the culture, but I mean, it's not really looking too good for him right now, and a lot of people are going to argue against me saying, oh yeah, well, he's a fucking moron. Zach Robinson, clearly the problem, but despite that, you know, got lots of great stuff going on this week. I know that the college basketball started last night. I've been kind of looking in the scores throughout the day today with college basketball. Obviously, I think the kind of highlight of last night's game was Florida versus Arizona. Arizona kind of escapes the win there. What's the game at Arizona? I don't know. Not a big basketball guy myself. More college basketball than NBA, so that's great for me. But we're going to kind of kick off our NBA and college basketball scene here. We're going to start talking about that, trust me, soon. I know the basketball fanatics. I promise I'll get some stuff out there about college basketball, about NBA. And we need to get back into golf, too. I know that there hasn't been anything too crazy going on in the golf world. Otherwise, I'd hear about it. But, you know, we have a lot of the higher teams playing, a lot of the higher expected to succeed teams play tonight. Obviously, we got Kentucky and Nichols. Purdue plays tonight. They're currently the number 1 seed. Duke plays Clemson. And there's a 4th team I'm missing. All right. But despite that, you know, starting off with college basketball, huge. I know a lot of people are excited about that. I'm personally excited myself. Georgia in college basketball, they destroyed Bellarmine men's basketball, and then ASU got destroyed by Georgia's women's basketball. So some great opening signs for the Dogs in the Steg. I know that Georgia's men's played in the Steg. I think that Georgia's women's was at Arizona State. So despite that, very exciting week for sports. And really, everybody have a great week. You guys won't really hear much from or directly hear my voice again for another week. We'll be back next Monday, November 10th. Same time, 7 p.m. This episode will be coming out 7 p.m. tonight. Obviously, we have the Tuesday episode next weekend. But kind of keep you all updated on the socials. Hope everybody has a great rest of their week, great rest of their day. Chase your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you what to do because they really don't know you. And God bless. Everyone have a great week. It has been Michael Schneider from Mic'd Up. I'll catch y'all next week. See y'all.